No. I think you'll find the first line is, "Did you hear that?" Rogue One. And is he drinking milk? You're ruining all the best lines. Oh, blimey. Well, that's clear. Funky hyperspace. Is that TIE fighter reversing? They're doing this on purpose, aren't they? So it seems our heroes are in a tight spot. Will they escape? Yes. Yes, they will. I assume you've seen the film? We have an action-packed start to this issue as we rejoin our friends in the detention block. Before too long, they've dived down into the trash compactor, which of course is a classic scene from the film and one which they don't really alter to any great extent in the comic, other than Han tries to shoot his way out of the trash compactor a second time in this, and also he seems rather put out by the fact that he thinks he's going to die whilst dressed in a stormtrooper's uniform. After C-3PO and R2-D2 come to their rescue, we catch up with Obi-Wan as he goes to shut down the tractor beam. And again we have this problem which occurred in earlier issues of inconsistent art, because in the space of just 2 pages we go from this nice moodily rendered image of Obi-Wan to what can only be described as bobblehead Han. Whilst he chases and gets chased by stormtroopers, Luke and Leia have found the chasm. Now, one significant change here from the film is that rather than give Luke a good luck peck on the cheek, Leia goes for something a bit more steamy. And then we get the Marvel version of that iconic moment as Luke and Leia swing across the shaft. From there, we move on to witness the confrontation that was teased on the front cover of this very issue, where it says, "At last, the battle with Darth Vader to the death." And as we know, that's no exaggeration. The duel between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader is actually really nicely realised, although, of course, again, we have Obi-Wan wielding a red, or very best, cerise lightsaber. But yeah, each of the panels is dynamic and distinctive from each other, and not necessarily just a copy of what we saw on the screen. There's even an additional bit of dialogue, as Obi-Wan comes out of an interesting line when he says, "You perceive the full power of the Force as little as a spoon perceives the taste of food." If that had been included in the film, it could have been up there with the likes of "Judge me by my size, do you?" With the rest of the heroes now gathered in the hangar bay, the duel nears its conclusion. We just have time for one more classic line to be misquoted, when Obi-Wan says, "If my blade finds its mark, you will cease to exist. But if you cut me down, I'll only become more powerful." Oh, okay. Then the inevitable happens, as whoa! Whoa! Wow! He's dead. That's very clear, isn't it? A lot less ambiguous than the film. Oh, hold on. Ben Kenobi's cloak falls to the floor in 2 parts, but Ben is not in it. And Vader, puzzled at the old man's disappearance, pokes at the empty cloak. Well, now it's more ambiguous than the film. My life is so hard. We then have Luke shouting out Ben's name and the surviving heroes escaping via the Millennium Falcon. But there is an issue here. They have changed an aspect of this duel that is fundamental to it and pivotal in the development of Luke Skywalker's character from farm boy towards Jedi Knight. He, of course, has witnessed Obi-Wan die at the hands of Darth Vader. But in the film, Obi-Wan knows that Luke is going to see him die at the hands of Vader. And in fact, he chooses it. He chooses that moment when he holds his lightsaber aloft and stops fighting. Here, that doesn't happen. Obi-Wan does duel Darth Vader, but he loses, and he dies as a result of losing. He doesn't look up, he doesn't see Luke. As far as we're aware, he is completely unaware that Luke Skywalker is even there. And surely that changes the whole nature of Obi-Wan's death. Wow, After that breathless issue, what does issue 5 have in store for us? Apart from a hilarious cover. Luke Skywalker strikes again. When was the first time? And it's a good job that the Death Star's lasers aren't strong enough to do any more than just knock a lump out of that wall. Otherwise, it really would be a technological terror. As usual, our creative team is Roy Thomas with Howard Chaykin and Steve Leiloa on art. Well, the pace doesn't let up yet, as we begin with the iconic... Is anything in this film not iconic? The iconic skirmish in space between the TIE fighters that are chasing the Millennium Falcon and Han and Luke in the gunner's seats. This being a comic, we have the advantage of seeing what each of the characters is thinking at this point, whether it be Luke, Han or Leia, but not Chewie, which is a shame. I'd love to have known what Chewbacca was thinking at this point. And is that a TIE fighter pilot hiding in the shadows? It doesn't quite look right, but it's hard to tell, to be honest, in that dark panel. And then we get another really well realised action sequence as Han and Luke pick off the TIE fighters one by one. Although I don't think we needed quite the level of detail we got when they told us his mouth moving slightly, the youth fires at it. I don't care what his mouth's doing. Of course, once they are free from the TIE fighters and the Death Star, the Millennium Falcon makes good its escape, and we actually have some downtime, including that little bit of banter between Princess Leia and Han Solo about what he cares about, and Luke's comment of, "I care," in a purely fraternal way, you understand. Then, of course, there's a bit of niggle between Han and Luke as they discuss the princess, and Han tries to wind Luke up about his feelings for her. And it works, because look at that angry face on Luke. We then actually get some nice detailed information about Yavin, the planet of Yavin, which we're told is a vast, uninhabitable gas giant of a planet. However, it has several moons and they are inhabitable, including the fourth moon, known to us as Yavin 4. With our heroes meeting up with the commanders of the rebellion, Leia says to Commander Willard that he must do his best to use the information from R2-D2 to plan the attack on the Death Star. She says, "It's our only hope." What is that? Some kind of a catchphrase or something? From there, of course, we go to the briefing, and from the briefing to the hangar bay, where, after parting ways with Han, Luke then says goodbye to Leia. And again, instead of the good luck peck on the cheek, we have a full-on, steamy, mouth-to-mouth kiss. Then, after a reunion with Biggs Darklighter, there's a moment that amuses me purely because they've chosen to put the title Blue Leader in speech marks. So it looks like Luke is being sarcastic. Oh, here comes Blue Leader. Maybe it's because they changed the colour of the squadron from blue to red for the film, and they're teasing him by referring to him by his old title. Or maybe there's some kind of private story that they know about and that we're not privy to about his background. Red Leader? Huh, more like Blue Leader. This is actually a scene from the film that's handled a lot better here, because rather than what we got with the bizarre kind of 180 attitude of Red Leader, going from saying, "Are you sure you can handle this?" to Biggs saying, "He's the best bush pilot there is," and him saying, "You'll be alright." We actually have Red Leader saying, "Skywalker, of course. I met your father once when I was just a boy. He was a great pilot. If you've got half your father's skill, you'll do better than all right." So suddenly it makes perfect sense that his attitude towards Luke changed, rather than that awkward moment that we see in the film. And actually, this dialogue was originally included, but it's been cut out, and that cut is hidden by another rebel walking across camera. Then Biggs. Oh, Biggs, Biggs, Biggs. If only he had kept his mouth shut, he could have survived the film. But oh no, instead he says to Luke, "Listen, tell me all your stories when we come back, alright?" "Okay, dead meat, Biggs." I'm surprised he hasn't told Luke that he's going to propose to Mary Sue when he comes back as well. And then, we're a couple of shooting stars that will never be stopped. He really is asking for it, isn't he? And he gets it, along with various other rebels in part 6. Is that a strange way to set up the last issue? Time to wrap this story up. The only items of note are that Steve Leiloa has been dropped from the art team, and, well, if that happens, I'll eat my hat. The rebels have launched their assault on the Death Star, and they've got 30 minutes until it is able to destroy their base on Yavin 4. One by one, they call in. Blue 2 standing by, Blue leader. Blue 3 standing by. Blue. Do you know what? I'll just skip to the next bit, where we are told that like narrow seeds, the double wings on the X-Wing fighters suddenly split apart. Narrow seeds? Is that a thing? As the attack begins, we get a behind-the-scenes view of what's going on inside the Death Star. I've got no idea who this chap's supposed to be, but look, a rare sighting of a space trooper. They are barely discernible on the screen in the actual film. They attempt to repulse the X-Wings with energy bolts and explosive solids. Explosive solids? Well, that didn't make it into the final cut, did it? Thankfully. Darth Vader acknowledges that the Death Star isn't equipped to repulse an attack from such small craft. So he orders the TIE fighters sent out, and he himself joins the fray. And here we actually see him climbing into his TIE fighter. Despite the rebels drawing first blood, we soon lose our first X-Wing as Porkins bites the dust. And we're told a few more details about him. For a start, his full name is Lieutenant Tono Porkins. And for weeks, if not months now, he's been fighting alongside Biggs Darklighter. Biggs knows him by his nickname, which is Piggy. I'm sorry, but if I was a, let's face it, overweight actor, I would refuse to play a role the nickname for which was Piggy. Biggs then vows that Porkins will be avenged. Not by you, he won't. Now, I know that protracted space battles can be difficult to portray in comics. In the 2015 limited series, Shattered Empire, we have page after page of the second Death Star battle. And as impressive as Marco Cicchetto's artwork is, the only dialogue we have is some very procedural chatter between the pilots. And as much as that's atmospheric, it can be quite boring. Rewind 40 years and a slightly different approach was taken. Now we get a lot of text boxes explaining to us what's happening. And what is happening? We have the first failed trench run. We have Darth Vader taking out Blue leader. And we have Luke hearing Obi-Wan's voice for the first time. And after hearing Ben's voice, Luke thinks through what has happened, and he explains to us that Obi-Wan wasn't killed. Instead, he merged somehow with the Force, and he's there with him now, in spirit. No, Luke, he is dead. Darth Vader takes out Biggs, which Luke handles quite well, apart from getting a bit snappy with Wedge. Wedge himself comments on the fact that Darth Vader, not that he knows it's Darth Vader flying that ship, but that Darth Vader is a devil of a flyer. Which makes sense. Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, was a great pilot. We're told that several times throughout the movies, and even in this adaptation, we've had two people tell us as such. Ben Kenobi said that he was a great pilot, and also Blue leader. That is why Darth Vader was able to take out so many X-Wings, not just because he's the main bad guy. One of the TIE fighters accompanying Vader suddenly explodes, and he shouts out, "By the immortal gods of the Sith!" It's not really a Darth Vader line, is it? This, of course, is the triumphant return of the Millennium Falcon, and its arrival causes the other TIE fighter to slam into Darth Vader's ship, sending him spinning off into space. Han tells Luke what we all know, which is that he's all clear. Now blow this thing so we can all go home. Luke does, but not before he's switched to manual. The odd thing here is that the disembodied voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi tells Luke to trust his feelings. It tells him to trust him, Obi-Wan. But he never, at any point during this sequence, tells him to use the Force. How weird is that? Nonetheless, Luke takes his shot in a million, and we see an explosion that definitely doesn't need the special edition treatment. We get a happy reunion back on Yavin 4, where we get a lot more dialogue between the three human heroes, and also Howard Chaykin really goes for it with that portrait of Luke. A little bit of tracing paper used there, Howard, perhaps? Next, it's on to the medal ceremony, where we are told that actually Chewbacca will have his own medal, but he'll have to put it on himself, because no princesses are that tall. Well, if he does get his own medal, I guess he's going to pick it up later, because he's certainly not wearing it in that last panel. Cue the music! Hooray, the good guys won. For now. Star Wars the film was a phenomenon. Star Wars the comic book series was no different. It wasn't the first film adaptation by Marvel that continued with new, original stories, but it was by far the most successful. Films such as Logan's Run and Star Trek got their own comic book series in the same circumstances, but neither endured long after the retelling of their films ended. In fact, Logan's Run lasted just 2 issues of original material before it was axed with issue 7, the same month in fact that Star Wars was launched. Planet of the Apes hadn't done too badly, lasting for 29 issues in the mid-70s, although that did rely heavily on adaptations of all 5 Apes films. And even, arguably, the most groundbreaking and highly respected science fiction film of them all, Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, couldn't maintain a series, as that 1976 title, based on concepts from the film, only just made it into double figures. Star Wars was different. The surprise hit movie spawned a 107-issue run, along with 3 annuals, a separate adaptation of Return of the Jedi, and 2 other titles based on the Ewoks and Droids cartoon series. The main title boosted Marvel's income at a vital time, and is credited by some as saving the company from financial ruin. The series came to an end in 1986, and subsequently publishing rights were taken over by Dark Horse Comics, who released the first in a multitude of titles in 1991. The strong grip that Star Wars has on popular culture continues to this very day. And, thanks to the acquisitions of the Walt Disney Company, in 2012 it was once again reunited with that other pop culture giant, Marvel Comics.